Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, welcome to my shop. Today is a particularly sunny day in the sunny shop, and you can see why right in front of me. So I pulled the trigger on, and despite some shipping delays and some other problems, we now have a setup here to put on the Monarch lathe. So the prettiest lathe on YouTube is now going to get a very nice little upgrade. Very excited about this. Very expensive investment, but that's what it is to me. It's an investment. I'm not wasting any money here at all. So this is an AcuRite 203 DRO system. So it's capable of 3-axis readouts, but only has 2. So I can add on a 3rd for the compound at a later date, and I think we probably will do that. But what we've got here is a 1260. So 60-inch Z scale and then a 12-inch cross-slide scale. And those two will read to, I think they're both, maybe the cross-slide is 1 micron and the Z, longitudinal is 5 micron? Can't remember. Anyway, we'll check it out as we go along, but I couldn't quite help myself and did open some things up to check them out, but let's look at some of the pieces here. We will have some challenges getting this installed, and that's not surprises to me. I knew it was going to be a deal. With my lathe, the cross slide is very short, and even the short scale is very long. So we're going to have to make some decisions on how to mount that. So yeah, let's check out some of these components, and then we'll get into what we have to start with to get on our way to installing this sucker. Stuff here includes, it's a mounting bracket kit. I'm not sure what that mounts to. So this is the head unit or the reader monitor or whatever, and it looks like the great quality I was expecting. This unit, maybe some of the components aren't made in Germany, but I think pretty much everything is. And yeah, you can see it's got a nice 7-inch color TFT display. I went with this over the more common Newell for this reason. So I've got a Newell on my mill, even though it's kind of an older model. Pushing down on those film switches, or what, I can't remember what they're called. I know very little about electronics, but anyway, it's just kind of annoying to use. I'd rather have physical buttons. Everything's very obvious whether you push it or not. There's tactile feedback, and it's like a control panel on a CNC machine is very, very much like using a computer, and the Newells are very much like using, it looks like a display of an alarm clock that's been around forever. It's just the digits, and that's kind of all you get. So anyway, we'll be able to put the shop logo and the channel logo and stuff like that on there, and this thing's packed with features. The most excited one I think I'm looking forward to is the tool offsets. So I can assign offsets to each of my lathe tools, and when I put them in the machine, I already know exactly where things are. I don't have to touch off. Everything is just super, super high quality. All of these components, the packaging is nice, heavy cardboard, and the extrusions are all very clean, and the machining, there's no burrs anywhere. Everything looks chamfered, and just high quality. And that's the cross-slide scale, if I didn't say so already. Another thing that I think is really cool of them is they include both metric and imperial fasteners. So you can install this thing. I think there are a few things where you have to use the metric fasteners, but in general, you can, I think all the holes you drill in your machine for mounting can be imperial and with fasteners that are provided. So that's pretty cool. And everything's all labeled and in English, which is nice, and a manual for everything, of course. And then I've got that's another mounting bracket for something. This is a mounting arm for the display, I believe. That's what it's called, a mounting arm. And then in the 2 long boxes is the scale and the protective bar for the longitudinal reader. So here's what the long scale looks like. Same super high quality and everything. 60 inches long, like I said before. Here's the inspection paper for this thing. So it is, the max deviation on this thing was 3.04 micrometers, or less than a tenth, I guess is that what that is? So I pulled out my phone here. 1/1,000,000th of a meter, or 1,000th of a millimeter, or 39 millionths of an inch is 1 micrometer or micron. I guess micron fell out of use. I guess I didn't realize that, but apparently micron isn't used in the scientific community anymore. But yeah, there's not much deviation in this thing across that 60 inches, which is pretty incredible to me. I'm sure there will be much more error generated by my install, even if I get it as good as I possibly can. I think the install is going to be the limiting factor, not the equipment. And here's the protective cover or bar, and that's a really, really nice extrusion. Can't say enough about the quality. Very, very impressive. Let's go over to the lathe and I'll show you what our challenges are and how I plan to solve them. So this will be the side we mount the cross-slide scale to. I've watched Robin Renzetti's video, and his rationale for mounting on the chuck side of the cross-slide is perfectly warranted and makes a lot of sense. I think for the type of work that I do and the proximity of the chuck to the height of the cross-slide, it doesn't make sense for me to put it on that side. So anyway, I did think about it. I just don't think it's the right move for me in this lathe. So our problem comes when we think about mounting this guy. The cross slide is in the middle of the 12-inch travel, so the reader itself will mount down here. That's no problem. This was part of the dual compound setup that was originally on this machine. But as you can see, if we mount this guy onto the cross slide, it overhangs by a good 6 inches. And that's because of the short compound, or the short cross slide rather. So we've got to do something about that. And there's a couple of different ways to go. So I think what makes the most sense is to go ahead and disassemble this, which is kind of exciting anyway. I've wanted to look under its skirt and finish cleaning the discoloration on the cast iron and everything anyway. But taking it apart will allow us to take the cross slide over to the mill and machine this side completely flat. What I can do is indicate off of the way, and that's the gib way, so there's no, as far as I understand it, there should be no wear at all on that way, that bearing surface. So anyway, it'll allow us to be very accurate on our installation, and I think that will ultimately make it a lot easier. Just mounting a plate up on here against, you know, the bumps and contours and everything else would probably be fine, but I'd rather just do this one time and get it right and be happy with it and not think, oh man, I should have done X, Y, or Z. So that's the plan. Take this thing apart, machine that nice and true, and then we can take a piece of flat bar of some kind, obviously not something this tall, but we can make a couple of holes in the cross slide and do some countersunk or counterbored holes in this guy, and basically have this guy permanently mounted, or affixed to the cross slide. And then I can make a couple of holes to accommodate our scale, and then we've got a nice rigid mounting surface for the scale to go on. The thing I don't like about that is obviously, messing with the originality of the machine. That's kind of a bummer, but Monarch would have made provisions for doing this if they had any notion of what digital was back in 1947, 48 when they were designing this machine. So this guy will stick out a fair bit, and I don't want it just flopping in the breeze out here. A project I've been considering and thinking about how to go about it for quite a while has been to extend my protection over the ways here. So to that end, a while back, I machined this as a starting point. So this is basically a replica of the original wiper holder, and this will slide over the end of the cross slide ways and mount up in the right position for holding wipers in place, or a single wiper in place on the back side of the cross slide. And then what I can do is either using a piece of bent sheet metal, or what's probably going to be the case is I will weld on a couple of pieces of flat bar on the sides and then a thin plate on the top, and then machine that angle in there so that we basically end up with something that looks like it could have been original. It just won't be made of, you know, a casting like Monarch would have done. Yeah, I'm excited about this. It's been a long time coming. I've wanted a DRO for a lathe since I've had a lathe, and the Monarch is not going anywhere. So why not invest money into a good DRO? These components are gonna last a very long time, and I think I will be a happy camper. First thing we're gonna do, just because I think it'll take the least amount of time, is make the opposite side of this guy for our new guard. So this side will be bolted up against the cross slide, and then this guy will be opposited over here. The original Monarch wiper holder is just like this, so the wiper fits in it. It's this thick, even with the wiper, so it'll be able to just butt up against this guy, and then we'll just put in those fasteners, and then it'll be good to go. And the other pieces of flat bar will come off the sides of this, and our thin piece of plate on top. Looks right. And then our depth from where we're at now to where we need to go, yeah, that's what we need, 609. Okay, just put a little bozo insurance here. We're going down the bed, or down the x-axis here, 7 1/8 inch. Looks all right. It's about 15 minutes to get all that removed. So a little while, but not too bad. There's really no reason to do the dovetail in there. It would be just fine forever if I just squared it off, but we're doing it, might as well. Now that we've got our end guard roughed out, we can take this back off. Only had one screw each side in. This brings up another problem that I'd like to address. So these things are on here, but chips still easily find their way in through the top and get these prematurely dirty, the wipers. So I think what I'd like to do is just mill a little groove in the back of the replacement guide that's going to go here, and just insert a an O-ring material. And it can't hurt. I don't know how much it'll help, but it seems like worth a try just to keep some of the crud from entering, especially on the chuck side, obviously. Here's our replacement, or backup, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, something about like that. And if we take our original Monarch cast iron chrome plated ones, so this will be the compound here, as if I'm standing at the back of the lathe. So this guy will go on this side, and this guy will go on this side. About like that. Got our tools ready to go for drilling and tapping. One thing I wanted to show off is brand new tools I bought, finally, from Fireball. These have been shown a number of times on other channels, and I'm a little late to the party, but finally picked up a set of these magnetic blocks. And they're for welding / fabrication / rough work, but the tolerances on them are so good. You can use them for all kinds of good machining uses. I don't need these guys to be clamped perfectly tight, but I did want them held in place, and there we go. Just grab my Fireball magnetic blocks. Not saying that having them rigid clamped wouldn't be better, but I just don't think it's necessary in this case. So these holes will be drilled and tapped for 1024, and then we will also drill holes to mount this guy on the underside of our new skirt, or the new cover. So we'll have these two guys in an arrangement that's very compressed, but that's kind of what they're doing. And on our top cover, so these guys are going to be like like they are in this arrangement. This will be about 12 inches long, but just for the sake of demonstration. And then on the underside of our top cover, I'm going to weld on a couple of little bosses, and then this guy will just space them where it makes sense, and the mounting of this piece onto this whole assembly will be through two countersunk holes here into the blocks that are on the underside of that cover. So that's the idea. It's probably way more complicated than needed. I just wanted fasteners to be hidden, just to make it look nicer. Totally doesn't matter, except that it looks nicer. I guess that does matter. To me anyway. So there's our 3 wiper holder assembly parts so far. Let's go over to the mill and drill and tap. Okie dokie. Referencing my engineer's black book here for our countersinks. So for a number 10 screw, we need a number 2 drill, and then the size of the max opening of the countersink is 411 thousandths. So nice and quick. Absolutely love this book. I've got the large old man version as well, and comes in very handy if you don't have one. I think you can even get them on Amazon. tiny bit more. Now what I can do is to make these both the same is go ahead and put my stop on the quill. And then when I go over to do my other hole, it will stop at the same depth. Make them nice and matchy-matchy. Let's see if it fits. Don't know where I put the other two original screws. I'll have to find or replace them. Usually for me, I put them in bags and label them, so I'm sure they're around here somewhere. It's just a matter of locating where.